Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. We're happy to have you here this morning. This is the House Appropriations Transportation Subcommittee. Welcome to our meeting. We are looking forward to hearing some good information from some of our agencies. I would like to ask if we could open with a prayer. Representative Collins, would you do a prayer for us? Thank you.
Most gracious, kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity today to come together to discuss the business of this state. We ask that you be with us throughout this process, lead, guide, and direct us in everything that we do. In your name we humbly ask these things. Amen.
Amen. This is our first meeting, and we'll go ahead and get started. First on our agenda is we're going to be hearing about our amended budget for 2020, and we'll start with our Georgia Department of Transportation. Please introduce yourself, and we're happy to hear your report.
Good morning, Madam Chair and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I'm Russell McMurray, the Commissioner of the Georgia Department of Transportation, and I appreciate the opportunity today to present the Governor's budget recommendation for amended FY20, and I'm going to blend in 21. If we can kill two birds with one stone, we'll try to do that. So I believe you got a handout in front of you. Our goal today is to touch really in three areas. Again, a little bit about transportation funding sources, so where's the revenues, and then where do they go, as we'll go through the amended 20 budget and 21 budget. And then just a minor conversation on some GDOT updates, a little bit about some things that going on at GDOT. So we'll start over on slide 3, which are the bar charts that show a little bit of the history of the excise tax, and this is just the excise tax on the fuel, and it shows from 2016 to 2019. You can see the growth, and then in the green is what we have for amended 20, and then what we project for 2021. And you can see it's been a pretty nice little stair-step increase for revenue that helps deliver our infrastructure projects. So just a little bit of a history there. One of the things I highlighted in the Joint Appropriations Committee, and I wanted to highlight with you guys here today, is a little bit of a comparison of trends in consumption of gasoline and diesel. So on the next chart is looks like a little bit about an EKG, but I'll try to discern what this EKG is. It's the blue is 2018 gallons by month, the green is 2019 gallons by month, and the red is 2020 of what we've got data for this year. And it's interesting to note is gas consumption always declines during the winter months. That's just traditional. But back in 2018, we took a pretty significant dip, and that seems to correspond about the time of Hurricane Michael. That data probably lags just a little bit from the Department of Revenue, because by the time it's reported, there's probably about a month lag in this data. So we saw a dip there, and the red this year is consumption, and we're seeing consumption being down somewhere between 2 to 3% from the previous 2 physical years, which is sort of interesting. The next page is diesel, and you can see that the red is tracking very closely to last year. So diesel consumption is very similar to last year, which is a good, which tends to give us good confidence. And on the next slide is just a combination of gas and diesel by year summed up by year instead of by month. And so you can sort of see the trend again of consumption. And you can notice again in 2018 on gas, we sort of hit the high on consumption, and then 2019 and 2020 came down just a little bit, but are still slightly climbing. So just almost flat, really. Diesel continues to grow, which is, again, I think is a testament to the freight movement that we have going on through the state, and continued growth that we see in the economy. It's interesting to note, of all the gallons consumed, gasoline constitutes about 78% of between gas and diesel. So gas is the largest share by volume in consumption as well. So, which sort of makes sense. I mean, because there's a lot more cars than there are trucks out on the road. The next chart is sort of where we begin to scratch our head a little bit about why is consumption down. And this is the chart that shows the United States. And this comes from the US DOT, or Federal Highway, where every month is a comparison to how many miles are traveled in Georgia compared to a year ago the same month. And they do it for the regions of the United States and by state. And you can see this is for October of 2019, the latest data compared to 2018. The South Atlantic region traffic grew by 1.1%. And if you feel like when you're driving around traffic is heaviest it's ever been, it is. We're seeing the highest traffic volumes ever seen and experienced, not only in Georgia, but generally across the nation as well. Traffic volumes have continued to grow. In fact, in the little box over to the right bottom, right near Florida, you can see that Georgia's 2019, our traffic volume grew by 1.9%. The vehicle miles traveled continued to grow. And if you look at that down there in the fine print, always check the fine print, you can see that 285.1 billion miles were traveled in October, which was about 1% increase. Think about that, 285 billion miles driven inside the state in a month. Interesting to note that Georgia is the fourth ranked state for how many miles are driven in the state. California is first, Texas is second, Florida is third, and Georgia is fourth. Not only that, Georgia ranks seventh as the distance that people drive per person. So we drive the seventh most miles on a per capita basis of any state. So that's sort of interesting. So we're seeing this anomaly that traffic volume is up, people are driving more than they've ever driven, but consumption's down compared to the last 2 years. So sort of leads you to think, well, maybe it's all the electric vehicles. Well, when we look at electric vehicles, they represent 0.25% of all the cars and motorcycles in Georgia, even less if you add trucks in. About 15,000 is according to about 15,500 according to DOR, and that coincidentally is back about to where it was before the state tax credit went away back in 2015. So they took a dip, electric vehicles took a dip, they're coming back. They will continue to grow as more auto manufacturers are putting electric vehicles in the fleet. So sort of interesting, we have since 2015, 2016, the amount of traffic or miles traveled in the state has grown somewhere between 2 to 4% every year, and again last year grew about 2%. So we're continuing to see that upward trend of traffic. So really trying to figure out what's going on here. It's sort of interesting. We think that potentially the impact of Hurricane Michael and this sustained impact of agribusiness over time could have an impact. It also could be the fuel efficiency in the fleet itself in Georgia, even though nationally the fuel efficiency of the CAFE standards this year actually got a little worse than they were than prior years. And part of that is as petroleum prices are low, people are buying more and more SUVs and larger pickups. And so they don't get as good of MPGs, even though they're getting better and tremendously better than before. The other thing that we're thinking is potentially the what I call the F-150 effect. I'm sort of a Ford guy, I guess, even though I drive a Chevy. I'm mixed. I've got both Chevy and Fords in my fleet, in the McMurray fleet at home. So I got both bases covered. But, just think about F-150 with the EcoBoost engine. They get a lot better MPGs than my F-150 that doesn't have an EcoBoost in it. And so, it could be some of that CAFE standard that we're seeing in Georgia and locally that's getting better, that's lowering consumption as well. And it seemed like F-150, Toyota Camrys, and Honda Accords are still the most prevalent vehicles that I remember. Don't fact check me on that, but but that's still you're seeing good fuel efficiency there. So I tell you this story because it tees up our budget discussion as OPB looked at the estimate of what excise should be in the amended 21, and on the next slide is a table that shows amended 20 and fiscal year 21. And so in amended 20, we're showing a $14.16 million reduction in excise because of what we just talked about. We're seeing consumption tracking below last year, so we're trying to watch out for that and be conservative in budgeting. And in 21, we do show an add of $51.6 million, which is about a little over 3% higher than the amended 20. And we're going to watch that trajectory to see where we go going forward. So you can see those two tables. The amended 20, 1.911 billion, 21, 1.977 billion was where we'll start. On the next slide is the second component of transportation funding that we have to use to advance projects and infrastructure and for all forms of transportation. And it's the fee component. $211.4 million is what that share is. And you can see the breakdown in this table of where they come from. The biggest part of that is the hotel fees, $179.3 million. And then the state general fund is $16.4 million. And highway impact fee consists of two things. It consists of the heavy impact or heavy vehicle impact fee for vehicles between $15,000 and $26,000, $50 restoration fee, and from $26,000 up is a $100 restoration fee per year. And then the alternative fuel fee for EVs is in that as well. About 25% of that number is generally probably about what you see for EV registration. Again, they're still a pretty small share out of the total makeup. So that's the second component. Now, as it relates to our budget on the next page is where do those fees, that's the fees, $211.43 million. And we held that, and OPB held that consistent from 20 to 21, from amended 20 to 21, just held it flat, again, being conservative. And so where those fees go, you can see 12.8 goes over to the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, and 2.4 goes to ATL, of which you'll hear from Mr. Tomlinson next, and he'll talk in more detail of that. So that leaves 196 in the amended 20 that's coming to the department for use. And then on the next slide is the same total funds being used. Again, about 18.7 total going over to Greta and the ATL, and also 15.8 going to the Department of Public Safety for the Motor Carrier Compliance Division, which leaves about 176.8 coming into the department for use to build our budget. So I just wanted to show you that. Now, on the next slide is the amended 20 budget request with bar charts. And this sort of goes along with your tracking sheet. And what we've done is tried to consolidate what's on your tracking sheet into the major budget categories. And so we've consolidated a few of our budget items here on your tracking sheet. And the first bar on the left is the capital projects component, which constitutes 47.5% of our budget at a little over $1 billion. That's for capital construction line item, capital maintenance line item, and local roads administration. So that is all about delivering projects, either locally or at the state level. So you see that we have that amount going there. And the next budget item there on the bar chart is general operations. And what we've done there is combine several budget categories. Construction administration is where all our people are that deliver projects, that get the projects ready, do the preliminary engineering, the right-of-way acquisition, the environmental work. It also has our overall DOT administration budget. We have data collections, which is a group that does federal data reporting. And it also has our planning division as well as our traffic management division under the general operations line. So that all constitutes about 10.5% of our overall budget. The next bar is the local maintenance improvement grant program, which is appropriated at 10% exactly of what the excise is, which constitutes about $191.1 million. Again, it goes out to the local governments, the LMIG program. And I'm proud that this year we did all electronic applications and receipts, so we sped that process up even more to our local governments, and they did a great job in getting all their applications in timely. The next category is routine maintenance, which constitutes about 21% of our overall budget at $443.8 million. Again, this is the men and women of GDOT out there taking care of our roadways, taking care of what we call routine or basically preventative maintenance all year long. And interesting to note, about half of that budget is outsourced. So we do about half of that ourselves, and then we outsource the other half for different things like mowing statewide. We outsource all the mowing on the state routes and the interstates now. That's one example of one of those outsourced efforts. The next category is a payment to CERTA, the State Road and Tollway Authority. The majority of that $103.2 million is going to pay back debt for guaranteed revenue bonds, or GARVI, which is a federal bond program where we pay it back through our partner at CERTA. The other components of that are for their operations for the toll lanes as they were getting stood up, and also for the State Infrastructure Bank, of which I'm sure Mr. Tomlinson will talk to you about. The next category is intermodal. It represents about 1% of our overall budget at $19.8 million. And sort of the break of that, because all you see is intermodal, sort of give you the breakdown of where those dollars go. The biggest part of those dollars go to aviation program of $14.6 million. And again, that goes to match a 5% match to local 5% match to get FAA dollars. Transit gets about $3.247 million, and that goes for us to administer the local or the rural transit program across all the counties in the state that have rural transit. $1.2 million go to our ports, to our port program, and about $740,000 goes to our state rail program. So that's sort of how where those dollars go. And lastly is general obligation debt on this, about $117.4 million that goes to pay back GO bond debt. So on the next slide, and I might mention that on the intermodal programs, they leverage close to $90 million, I believe it is, of federal dollars. So we get a big leverage out of that. Mostly it's matching money to leverage, and the biggest part of that's from FAA. So the next slide is the table of showing the changes that you see on your track sheet. Again, just take your track sheet, and this has been tableized for amended 20. And where the reductions of the 14.16 in excise come from is 11.3 out of capital construction, reducing 1.4 million out of the LMIG program. And then if you look at payments to CERTA, there on the top chart, which is motor fuel, and the bottom chart, you can just see a fund source swap there. And so that was from motor fuel to excise. You can see the change there. So just a few comments on these changes. Don't worry that the 11.3 reduction in capital construction means that your project's not going to move forward. Our goal there probably is to just take that out of the federal matching money and just redistribute that across our entire program, where generally state funds match 20%, the federals are 80%, so that we don't have a big project impact that way. And on LMIG as well, is generally we have a little reserve in that category as well. So, you know, every city and county, they've already made application this year, and we've already distributed those dollars. So we're not going to have to go back and try to get money back from anybody. We're still safe there. So all said and done, the 14.16 million reduction is not going to have a noticeable impact. On the next page is the 21 budget, presented in the same way. And so to just highlight a few little things there instead of doing each category again, is that, again, the combination, you can see that capital projects actually grew. Of course, all the numbers grew because motor fuels moved up to $1.977 billion. Add in the transportation fees, you get a $2.15 billion total budget. But as you notice, as percentage of change is capital projects last year were this year in 2020 were 47.5% of our budget. We moved up to 49% of our budget. And so you want to, again, see the difference of where the dollars are going. The lion's share of the budget goes to the projects themselves or getting the projects ready in the maintenance arena, which really constitute a big portion of what we do. The other thing I'll highlight too is LMIG continues to grow, which is so important for our cities and counties. Since 2015, it's grown over 61%. So from that's been a tremendous impact and tremendous positivity to our local governments. So generally it's the same, but again, the budgets, you can see how they are. So let me turn quickly over to the next, which is the table for 2021 budget request to show where the $51.62 million will be going to in the governor's budget request. 36.9 will go to capital construction, so that's to deliver projects. Capital maintenance grows by $6.83 million. LMIG grows by $5 million, again, as a straight comparison to the 10% of excise. Payments to CERT are at $2.67 million. Now down in the fee component, in the state general fund component, you can see some reductions there of $17.8 million, and those are good. Those are general obligation bond debt reduces by $6.8 million because our bond debt is going on the downhill slope a little bit, so that's less bond debt we have to pay back. And $11.47 million to payments to CERTA. The same reason for that reduction is because our bond debt between Garvey's and GRB bonds are declining as well. And then they have an add of $500,000 for intermodal, and in the governor's recommendation was that's for the ferry service for the Sapelo Island ferry that goes back and forth. And so we'll work with DNR to work with them to put that into their budget or to do an intergovernmental agreement somehow. So that shows you the reduction in between motor fuel and state general funds and fees. Let me flip a page or two. I believe next you have the bond recommendation of $50 million for bridges. And I always like to show this chart because we do a really good job in bridges. We get rated very highly. In fact, only about 3% of Georgia's bridges are seen to be deficient. So we're one of the best states in the nation is our bridge conditions, which we should be very proud of. But with saying that, we can't turn our head because there's 1,551 bridges that are in need of replacement. And most of those are on the rural roads or city or county streets. And so we have to continue to do that. And what we do, again, we're very appreciative of the generosity of the General Assembly on the bridge bonds over the last 4 or 5 years. We take these $50 million, we'll do about 12 or 15 bridges on the state route system, and what we would have used our general funds for or our normal budget for, we take that and apply that to local roads. So we're getting a lot of local bridges replaced across this state through different programs, many of which is where the local governments only have to put in money to buy half the right-of-way, and we'll do the rest of it. So we're really trying to help the counties that need the help the most and take a strategic look at that because, again, 1,551 bridges are still a lot of bridges, and that has a big impact. And this map shows those bridges. You look at them, and if you want to do something later, you can count the dots and see if that equals 1,551. Just make sure y'all awake. All right. So next, moving away from the budget, just as I told you, I want to highlight one thing. Obviously, Georgia's the #1 place to do business for 7 years in a row, and the governor's vision of continuing to make it the #1 state for small business as well. One of those outsourced efforts that we do in routine maintenance is what we call invitations to bid, of where we have contractors that we sign up and put them on retainer, if you will, to do things like cut trees, patch potholes, fill cracks, repair guardrail, repair fences, repair the sound walls, things like that. And we will basically sign them up, get them on board, and then our districts, when they have work to be done, if they need to crack fill or fill the cracks on a road from A to B, they send out an email that goes out to everybody that says, hey, I can do crack filling. And the companies simply send a bid back in electronically, and since they're already under contract, we can quickly award the lowest bid and move forward. And this pie chart represents that program, and that out of that program, 43% of all this work was done by a small business, which is tremendous. So that's $49.9 million to small business. And out of that whole program of all the contractors that we have doing that work, about 54% of them, of all the contractors that can do the work, are small business. And out of the 54% being small businesses, 43, they got 43% of the work, which is tremendous. And so we're very proud of this. It helps our maintenance crews. Our maintenance crews love this because they can't do it all. And this is a way, again, to develop and grow small business into the transportation arena that otherwise previously never would have thought about even working, on a state contract. And it's been very efficient, and I have to give credit to the Department of Administrative Services, too, to help us to do this electronic contracting very seamlessly and speed things up. So we really think we're using technology to advance things. And finally, the next slide is one I'm probably the most proud of. It shows our staff levels. We're currently about 3,958 employees. And since HB 170, if you rewind back to about the 2016 date there, you can see that we're delivering over $1 billion more a year with basically the same head count. And that means that the women and men at GDOT have figured out how to do things differently, innovatively, and work very collaboratively to make sure that we continue to deliver value for the citizens of Georgia and that we deliver a fantastic transportation system. So very proud of that. In fact, one U.S. government spending website has Georgia as the 13th lowest per capita in transportation spending. But I think we get a good return if you look at what the conditions of our roadways. Like I said, the bridges, we're ranked very high. Obviously, we're working on congestion and mobility all the way across this state. But I'm very proud of the work that the men and women of GDOT do. Obviously, none of it wouldn't happen without them. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my lengthy report, and I'll be glad to entertain any questions or comments.
Okay, we do have a question. Let's see, that is Representative Perkle.
Madam Chair. Thank you for your work and the efficiency of your department to make our roads and bridges safer. I have a two-part question. Can I ask both? Or?
Please.
Thank you. The first, would you provide us a comfort level for this committee? You and I have talked offline about this issue one time, and you helped me. I'd love to see all the orange cones throughout this great state and doing work on the roads and bridges throughout all over the state of Georgia. I also know that when you have a lot of contracts that go out and 50% of what you were doing were outside jobs, sometimes inflation will creep in. If I've got 5 jobs to bid on, perhaps I don't provide maybe the best bid on these jobs that we need. Would you provide some comfort level for us that we're not seeing a tremendous number of inflation that is costing us more per mile to stripe, to cut down vegetation, to fill in cracks? What is the process for the department in making sure if it should cost us $6 a mile, it's not costing us $12?
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. One is we're still seeing very competitive bidding on all our projects. Generally, I think we're averaging about 4 bids per contract, which is very good. And so we're seeing that. But the way we do that is we have on the projects, we have our engineers or designers, which may be a consultant or may be a GDOT employee team, come up with an estimate, and we work from that. But under our chief engineer's office, we have a separate office that their only goal is to do independent analysis of putting contract pricing together. So they work separate and apart, and they actually work just the way a contractor does. They call up and they ask for, what's the going rate for reinforcing steel? What's the going rate for liquid petroleum? What's the going rate for concrete? And they actually put a bid together just the way a contractor does. And that is kept independent and confidential until bids are received. Again, we're getting good competition in bids. And then when we look at that, there's a comparison through 2 separate committees that look to see, is that price a good price? Are we seeing, prices that are not in line with what they should be? And I get back to your sort of the inflationary thing. We haven't seen a lot of tick up in commodity pricing. Petroleum drives a lot of things, and petroleum prices are low now and have been, so that's a good thing. So we haven't seen that. Now, some other states have seen some increases, mainly California and Texas. They've seen some increases in commodities, but it's driven by other things as well as just supply and demand, especially in like the Houston and Dallas area. But so far, Representative Perkle, we're looking good. That's one of the things we very much track. We've got a very solid process to know that when we get a bid and we review a bid, that it's good. And I can tell you that we reject bids too, because if something seems wrong or they seem too high, we've done that. And some of the things we've had to do on some of our bigger interstate projects is make them smaller to make them more competitive, because big interstate work is, very costly. It's the hardest work, the highest volume of traffic you have to do with. And one project we did on an interstate, we bid eastbound and westbound differently, or in two separate contracts, because again, trying to get competition. And so we take those things very seriously, take a very strategic approach to make sure that Georgians are getting the best value for sure.
Part B?
Well, go
That's
ahead,
good,
follow
because I thought that was just one question.
Go ahead.
And Part B, one of the other modes of transportation we have in this great state is rail. And the state of Georgia owns, I forget the mileage, you could tell
Close
me
to
how many miles
500
of railroad. And I noticed in the fiscal year 20, there was approximately $1 million, 1.2 or something, for maintenance and upgrades of our railroad system, the 500 miles that we have. Some of these are vital in our inland ports, in going through rural areas, getting the traffic off the road straight from Savannah and Brunswick, getting something inland and getting less truck traffic on the road. It appears to me that $1 million would be a very small amount for the amount of roads, miles of railroad track that we have. Are we able to keep up? I know a few years ago we had some issues with the quality of what we own, the state of Georgia owns in our rail system. Can you speak to that slightly?
Sure. What's in our base budget is generally for us to administer the program of working with the short line operators that lease the state-owned rails from us, which doesn't really go toward capital. So we predominantly have relied on bond funding to do capital rehabilitation. And just in the last year, we were able to take bond funding and leverage that at 50-50 with federal grants, and we actually did very well in leveraging about half. I believe it was about $35 million. I'm looking at Angela, I'm trying to remember. We had about $35 million of bonds that we were able to leverage 50-50 with federal that really will do more of the capital rehabilitation. And we're trying to get those rail lines up so that they can handle the standard heavy Class 1 freight rail train and a speed up to 15 miles an hour. So to give you some perspective. And so that's how we do capital projects, is we're looking generally for bond dollars to do those projects.
Thank you. We also have a question, Representative Efestration.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for your presentation. I want to thank you for your leadership and outstanding job you're doing. I did have a question about the 21 budget, the request for the funding for the ferry to Sapelo Island. Could you just maybe walk us through what the nature of the request, how that comes in, if that's something DNR typically would request of GDOT, and how exactly that would work as far as support for a DNR request?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. That was part of the governor's recommendation of just, again, how to, I guess, help DNR fund that transportation purpose. And so that was the first time we've had this coming out of the transportation fees to go to do that. So,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the members? We appreciate this. It was great information, and we appreciate your input and delivery of a great program. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, next we have folks from the State Roads and Tollway Authority. Thank you. We're glad to have you here this morning. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. My name is Chris Tomlinson, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director for the state's 3 mobility authorities: the State Road and Tollway Authority, commonly referred to as SRTA, Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, as well as the Atlanta Region Transit Link Authority. So today I'll be presenting on both the amended fiscal year 2020 as well as the fiscal year 2021 governor's recommended budget for all 3. I'd like to begin by just giving some background about the State Road and Tollway Authority, which will be the first entity that I'll be talking about. SRTA's key functions include tolling as well as transit operations, as well as innovative funding and financing programs such as the Georgia Transportation Infrastructure Bank. In its role as a transportation financing arm and partner with the Department of Transportation, we work to leverage some of the unique powers that come with being an authority that allow us to consider new and innovative types of funding, which help enable projects such as the Major Mobility Investment Program of GDOT, which is going to add additional express lanes in the metro area. Basically, working in partnership with them, we can accelerate these projects by coming up with innovative ways to provide the upfront funding and capital needed to do these projects today, so collectively we can start bringing these benefits to Georgia citizens much earlier than if we were simply relying on the department's federal and state budgets. As I also mentioned, currently SRTA performs transit operations as well on behalf of GRETA. This function is set to move over to the ATL in fiscal year 2021 based on the governor's recommendations, as well as the express intent and provisions that were listed in House Bill 930, which created the ATL back in the 2018 session. So I'll be talking specifically about that in a few slides later in the presentation. So now if you'll turn to the next slide, slide 3, we'll take a look at the amended FY 2020 recommendation for SRTA. As the commissioner already touched upon, the only recommended change to the SRTA budget in AFY 20 is a fund source swap, replacing approximately $1.3 million in motor fuel funds with state general funds. So it's a net zero change to the budget, and it has no impact on SRTA operations. And that was the only change related to the amended budget as it relates to SRTA. So in the next slide, I'll move on to the big budget, or the FY 2021 budget. So on slide 4, you see a representation of the governor's recommendation for FY 21. The first item is a reduction in state general funds to reflect a reduction in debt service payments for the guaranteed revenue bonds and the grant anticipation revenue vehicles, or GARVs, again, as the commissioner mentioned in his presentation. The second item is another fund source, replacing state general funds with motor fuel funds, and it collectively is a net zero dollar change. And the last item, also mentioned by the commissioner, we're in year 4 of what we call the 10 for 10 program, but it was providing $10 million in funds from the department over to SRTA, and those funds are set to be used for operations related to the Northwest Corridor Expressway, the I-75 South Metro lanes, as well as the Id5 Extension, which was the 10-mile extension of the existing I-85 lanes. In total, SRTA receives approximately $94.5 million in appropriated state funds, be those motor fuel or state general funds, plus an additional $135 million in federal funds. So on the next slide, I'll talk a bit about where those funds go. So if you're looking at the pie chart on slide 5, you have a graphical representation of our state funds budget broken out by the 3 categories that they go to. Again, as the commissioner mentioned, the overwhelming majority goes towards debt service payments to the tune of about $71.5 million in debt service. The other is that 10 for 10 program, which was $10 million going into those very specific express lane operations. And the last is the Infrastructure Bank program, where we receive just shy of $13 million a year for that program. If If you're not familiar with the Infrastructure Bank, this is a program that was created by legislation back in 2009. It's been in operation since 2010. And since 2010, we've had 6 rounds of project awards where we've given awarded approximately $125 million in funds, which has enabled projects with a total value of approaching $800 million to go forward. To date, projects have been awarded in over 28 different counties. A lot of people who are familiar with the program think that this only focuses on or benefits community improvement districts, but this program is open to all municipalities, and we regularly see project requests from cities and counties. As the commissioner mentioned, we've even tried to do innovative projects where we will allow local governments, say they want to do a bridge program, they can count even the money that they're receiving from LMIG as match for this program to try to get either grants or even in the form of loans to, again, accelerate when they can get to those projects or to do multiple projects at once. In your packet, I provided a copy of the FY19 GTIP annual report. And every single year we provide a separate annual report that gives progress on those projects, as well as every single award that's ever been made since 2010 is available on our website, so you can see whether they've been completed or whether they're still in progress. Every time I talk about CERTA and highlight the innovations, inevitably it comes back to questions about Peach Pass and the tolling program. So in slide 6, I want to give you an update on the program and the current express lane or toll facilities that are open. If you look at that rather busy slide on the far left, you can see the geographical location of the projects that are open to date. Top center, you see that peach-colored 1 million. At the end of last year, we surpassed and issued our 1 millionth Peach Pass. This is over 1 million vehicles essentially have a Peach Pass on them, either residing here in the state or elsewhere. We have customers even from our neighboring states. This growth has been explosive to say the least. And the rest of the chart gives you information on the total annual amounts of trips occurring on each of the roads. Id5 express lanes, you can see that we're at about 9.9 million trips through the fiscal year that ended in June 30 of 19. The average toll fare is $3.39. That is a 24-hour average, but even during peak hours where the tolls tend to run higher, you're still under $5 as the average toll that people pay. And the next number, 37,551 trips as our highest one-day total in that fiscal year. To put that in perspective for you, when the Id5 express lanes opened back in 2011, we saw an average of 7,500 trips per day. We now regularly are seeing over 30,000 trips in the same one lane. I don't think we can fit many more cars, but it definitely speaks to the demand and utilization. The newest project is the Id5 Extension, where working with the department, they extended and added an additional 10 miles. And I also like to point out, not only did the department extend the express lane, but they also used the opportunity and found the room to add another general purpose lane, thus effectively not only providing this express lane, but widening the entire corridor for the vehicles that are using it. That is the newest project, so that's why the trip total is the lowest at 1.6 million. And obviously, right now, congestion is lower, so the toll prices are much lower, and that's what leads to the average of just under 50 cents for the toll for that section. Northwest Corridor Express Lanes is tied for the largest and longest reversible toll road in the country. Both us and Virginia each have a 30-mile long facility. And this is the project where we still continue to receive positive anonymous social media tweets. When government gets positive anonymous social media tweets, we must be doing something right. it's all downhill from here. But it's been very popular. We literally every week hear people say it's changed their lives. They're saving over 30 minutes. We had to redo all of the express bus schedules in that corridor because we were off schedule. We were arriving on average at least 15 minutes earlier than what was planned. So it was a good change. But we're very encouraged, and we're continuing to work with the department to look at that facility and tweak it and make sure it continues to perform as optimally as possible. And last and certainly not least, I-75 South Metro Express lanes. This is the road to Disney World. This is running south of the city, primarily through Henry County. Over 3 million trips, average toll fare of 90 cents. And so all told, this performance has been great. It certainly leads to the over 1 million Peach Passes. But I wanted to point out in future years when I'm coming back, we're going to be talking about some new partnerships that are made available by this. As I stand up here today, we're working on a project with Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Because they recognize there's 1 million vehicles who have a Peach Pass, when they open their latest parking deck this fall, if you have a Peach Pass, you'll literally be able to just drive into the deck and park, do your trip. When you come back, get in your car, drive out. No tickets, no looking for the credit card. You're already running late. And so we think this will be the first of many innovative partnerships leveraging Peach Pass and parking. We're also working on further interoperability with Florida and North Carolina. That's in place today, but we're working with the Easy Pass group, which would connect the Peach Pass system to the entire Northeast corridor. Moving forward to the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority. This is the entity that's focused on developments of regional impact and doing a review that's of what's called the Transportation Improvement Program. This was the entity that originally started the express service, but as I mentioned, that's been operated by CERTA. But on Express, everyone has heard of this. This is our regional commuter bus service. We have an operational jurisdiction of 12 counties, but I thought the committee should be aware our ridership comes from over 40 counties in Georgia. We have people driving in, and in fact, actually in 6 counties in Alabama, but we don't talk about Alabama. But people are coming in from all over, parking at these park and rides in the 12 counties that we have park and rides to commute to workplaces in either downtown, midtown, or perimeter center. So it's a vital service that is relied on by Georgians both within and outside of the metro Atlanta area. We're in our 16th year of operations, and if you look at slide 9, there's some interesting improvements coming to the program. We are midway through our first major refresh of the system. Until this year, we had not secured a new coach since 2011, and we recently took possession of 75 additional coaches, all of which were purchased and secured without using any state appropriated funds. We were able to leverage funds from the VW emission scandal to upgrade and replace this fleet, again, without using state appropriated dollars. We're upgrading the technology on the buses, and that's really in line with the governor's strategic goal of leveraging technology, which is going to improve the customer experience for our Georgia citizens, as well as give us better data to manage the operations. Slide 10, we're also in the process of constructing additional park and rides, leveraging the partnership and the advantages that come with the express lanes. And at Hickory Grove up in Cobb, there'll be a new park and ride slated to open by the end of the calendar year. Working with our partners at KSU and expanding the park and ride at Town Center, Big Shanty, because of the explosive growth, not only the university, but just of the population in that area. And working with our partners in Gwinnett on additional park and ride lot at Sugarloaf Mills. All that takes me to the Greta budget, and this is where I'm going to start explaining the shift that's in the budget. So for amended FY 2020, there are literally no changes for the Greta budget, so no changes for this amended fiscal year. In FY '21, and if you're looking at slide 12, this walks through the governor's recommended budget. So the first item is an add of $3.4 million for express operations. This is in order to meet the current and ongoing operational maintenance expenses of the facility. To date, over the past 3 and 4 years, we have been able to meet the budgets by using reserves that have been built up over time. We're at the point where those reserves are exhausted, and so this add allows us to continue to offer this service. And we're also engaged in an upcoming procurement partnership with Gwinnett, which is designed to keep costs at this current funding level, hopefully over an additional 5-year period. The second item is transferring state funding the amount of $15.8 million from the express operations, which again, until this budget has always existed in the greater budget, over to the Atlanta Region Transit Link Authority. And again, this transfer is a result of House Bill 930 language. And the last item is simply a directive to use the remaining funds of $330,000 to administer Greta's continuing statutory functions related to improving the Metro Atlanta Transportation Improvement Program. This is a approval and review that they do on behalf of the governor, as well as its review of developments of regional impact. Major developments happening in Metro Atlanta and looking at what impact they would have on traffic. So Greta's budget, if this budget was to pass, would, on a going forward basis, their base would be approximately $330,000. Moving to the last entity, the ATL, or Atlanta Region Transit Link Authority. I'm happy to report that ATL successfully passed its first regional transit plan in December and released its first annual report and audit of all the major operators providing transit services in Metro Atlanta. That report is available online. It includes information from Express, MARTA, Gwinnett, Cobb, and probably several others that you might not be familiar with. But rather than having to go to each of these entities to find information on their operations, their assets, their performance on a yearly basis, we're providing that consolidated report, which we think just a much easier, more efficient way to find information on what's happening as far as transit in the metro area. Turning to slide 14, the ATL has no changes in the amended budget. And you can see the ATL has a budget of $2.48 million. So there are no changes for the amended budget. Looking at the FY21 ATL budget, again, you can see the ATL operational base of $2.4 million also remains unchanged. But what you have is the addition of the $15.8 million express budget, again, moving from Greta to the ATL. And on slide 10, I always like to come back and explain, because we know it causes a lot of confusion with these 3 agencies, 1 executive director, but really this is a shared services model, and it's really driven by cost avoidance. There's 1 executive director, there's 1 HR, there's 1 IT department, 1 CFO. So we're providing through CERTA, which is the oldest of the 3 authorities, administration, financing, accounting, IT, legal, contracts, and procurement functions, project management, and engineering for all 3. So we have a matrix staff, shared space, and really the goal is in line with the governor's strategic goal of reforming state government. We're going for smaller, smarter government. And it's why ATL may also be unique in that it has 9 dedicated positions to do its regional functions. Literally, the staff is smaller than the board itself because it's a 16-member board. So, but that's why this setup exists. Again, trying to be very efficient with it. And as Russell said when this first was created to me, he goes, well, you've at least made calendaring meetings easier since there's 3 people to coordinate with. But Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. We do have a question. Let's see. Where is that? Okay. Representative Dickerson.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I was wondering if there was is there anything in your plans for express lanes going down I-20?
In the department's long-range plan, there are plans for express lanes on I-20, starting approximately on the east side and the side that you're on, from 285 out to Stonecrest. It goes out that far? Yeah, out to Stonecrest, and there are future, and again, this is in the long-range plans, to look at the potential of express lanes on the west side of 20 outside of 285.
But before
Yes.
that, we're
Yeah.
rebuilding the interchange at I-20 and 285.
And 285, yes.
Adding lanes to the east in that project as well, so there will be a relief of that bottleneck well in advance
Panola.
of the express lanes, so that will help I-20 flow a lot better because
Thank
of
you.
the pinch point at 285.
No more accidents, no more trucks rolling over, huh? Coming around that curve.
That's the plan.
Okay, thank you.
That's the plan.
Thank you. Let's see. Go right ahead.
You're talking about the I-20 corridor on 285. Is that the east side or west side?
We're doing projects on both sides
sides.
to rebuild both interchanges.
I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I don't see any other questions. I want to thank you for your presentation. I think you've given us a lot of good information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes our information, and I thank everybody for being here today. We are adjourned.